What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I'm going to do another drywall penetration test. And this is a test that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and I finally had a chance to do it. And I'm going to be shooting my 416 Ruger elephant gun at drywall to see how many sheets of drywall it can penetrate through with a variety of different ammunition. I'm going to be using solids and expanding bullets to see the difference. And I'm also going to use two different brands. I'm going to use some Buffalo Bore and some Hornady. Now, if you're not familiar with the 416 Ruger, it's basically almost identical to a 416 Remington Magnum and 416 Rigby. It's designed to push a 400 grain bullet at around 2,400 feet per second for a total of 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And the hottest loads in the 416 Ruger, you can push them up to 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, which is almost into 458 lot territory, and that's more than a 458 Win Mag. And it's designed to achieve those velocities and energy levels from a 20-inch barrel. And the rifle I'm going to be using for this test is my Ruger guide gun. Okay, this has a 20-inch barrel. If you've never seen my Ruger guide gun before, this is what it looks like. Okay, I have an Athlon 1:6 power scope. I have a Hogue stock that has a full-length bed block. Okay, and here's the Ruger logo. Absolutely love this rifle. I also have custom night sights that I had installed by a company in Michigan called Tool Tech Gun Sight. And these are express sights with tritium vials in them. So this way I can use these in low light situations. Also, this video is being sponsored by Mason Leather. Check out Mason Leather if you're interested in a cartridge cuff like this one right here to hold your extra cartridges. This is a great place to put your cartridges. If you're hunting dangerous game, you have easy access to your spare cartridges. You don't have to fumble with your belt. You know, if you have like a belt pouch, you have all the cartridges you need right on the rifle itself. So it's a very convenient place to put your reloads, and when you're hunting dangerous game, you need to reload quickly. You don't want to have to fumble through layers of clothing to try to get to your belt pouch. You want it somewhere easily accessible, and Mason Leather just does a fantastic job. Mine's a little bit beat up from carrying it through the woods. You can see some scratches, but look at this beautiful leather work. Mason Leather, check them out, www.masonleather.com. And if you use my promo code NY10, you get 10% off. So check them out. And these loops are great because they fit the cartridges just perfectly. Okay, here's one of the cartridges. I'm going to show you guys how nice and snug. Look at that. Just beautiful leather. Holds that cartridge perfectly. It's not going anywhere, but it's also easy to take out if I need to reload quickly, okay, in a dangerous game, hunt, or something like that. So check them out. And so all of these cartridges can achieve around 5,000 to 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy out of this 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. And I have done a chronograph test with all of these loads. So if you want to check that chronograph test out, I'll leave a link at the top of this video. But I have chronographed all of these loads, and I can confirm that all the numbers on these boxes here are accurate, and I am actually getting these numbers from a 20-inch barrel, and in some cases I'm getting about 25 to 50 feet per second more, which is really interesting. So I want to just show you guys up close what the 416 Ruger cartridge looks like. We could see it's quite beefy and massive. Okay, here we have the Hornady 400 grain Dangerous Game Expanding Bonded, and you can see it has a flat nose and an exposed soft point. It has a hard cast lead core, so it's a hard lead core, and it has a steel jacket, 400 grain bullet, and I've chronographed this out of the Ruger guide gun. It gets around 2,400 feet per second for 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. So here's one of the loads we're going to test. Here we have the second expanding bullet. This is the Buffalo Bore 400 grain triple shock X. This is a solid copper hollow point expanding bullet designed for controlled expansion. I get around 2,430 feet per second with my Ruger guide gun with this load, so very hot load. And then moving into the solids, we got the Buffalo Bore 350 grain monolithic metal. This is a copper alloy bullet. It's monolithic, so it's solid, and it's pure copper alloy. There's no jacket, there's no other material, so it's a hard bullet designed for penetration. I have penetrated through 25 Douglas fir 2x10 framing lumber, okay, with this load here. So it can penetrate very deep, and I've also shot through a 2-foot diameter fresh white oak log, okay. So this one I've chronographed at 2,675 feet per second out of my Ruger guide gun for 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, which is approaching 458 lot territory. And then finally, our other solid bullet is the Hornady Dangerous Game Solid. This is a steel jacketed bullet with a hard cast lead core. And this is actually the deepest penetrating load that I've tested out of all of these. This load penetrated through 26 Douglas fir 2x10s, 75 sheets of 1/2-inch plywood, and it also penetrated through a 2-foot diameter white oak log. So I'll leave links at the top right corner of this video to all those penetration tests and the chronograph test. I highly recommend you check them out. Also check out my 416 Ruger playlist for all of my 416 Ruger content. And the sheetrock or drywall that I'm going to be using is just some standard 1/2-inch drywall that's used for interior walls in the United States. And what I'm going to do is stack them all together really tightly, and I'm going to use a special jig that I made from lumber to hold them all together really tightly. And that's how we're going to shoot at the sheetrock. It's going to be tight together. I'm going to shoot from a distance of about 25 yards. And after we shoot the sheetrock, I'm going to take the jig apart. We're going to see how many sheets of sheetrock an elephant gun can penetrate through. We're going to see what kind of penetration we get with the expanding bullets versus the solids. And I'm also going to try to recover the bullets. We're going to take a closer look at them, see what kind of expansion occurred, what kind of weight retention, etc., etc. And we're going to also take a closer look at the sheetrock, one by one, each individual sheet, to see what kind of damage was done. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I was really looking forward to doing this for a long time. I finally got a chance to do it. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you want to see some of my other sheetrock penetration test videos, check out my sheetrock or drywall penetration tests playlist. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for watching. All right, guys, 416 Ruger, 400 grain, Dangerous Game Solid, 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, 400 grains, steel jacketed bullet. Let's see how many sheets of sheetrock it can penetrate through. All right, guys, 416 Ruger buffalo bore, 350 grain monometal, generates 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. Let's see how many sheets of sheetrock it can go through. All right, guys, I'm going to take a second shot with the 350 grain monometal. All right, guys, second shot with 400 grain DGS. All right, guys, so now I'm going to hit it with the Hornady DGX Bonded steel jacketed soft point bonded core, 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. Let's see how many sheets of sheetrock it'll penetrate through. All right, guys, so now we're going to hit it with the buffalo bore 400 grain triple shock X with a muzzle velocity of 2,425 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 5,100 foot-pounds. It's a solid copper expanding bullet. Let's see how many sheets of sheetrock it can penetrate through. So the Buffalo Bore 350 grain monometal was the star of the show, and it penetrated 111 sheets and 108 sheets because I took 2 shots, okay? And the 350 grain monometal from Buffalo Bore has a muzzle velocity of 2,675 feet per second out of my 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. And I have confirmed that muzzle velocity with my chronograph, and that's about 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, guys. That is just ridiculous. That is a lot of energy, about 30% more energy than a 4570 with plus P plus bear loads. Basically 2,000 foot-pounds more energy than a 4570 with bear loads. Next was the Dangerous Game Solid, the 400 grain Dangerous Game Solid from Hornady, which has a muzzle velocity of 2,400 feet per second. And I have chronographed that load out of my 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. And I can confirm that it does travel at 2,400 feet per second out of the muzzle of my 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. And that's about 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. So the 400 grain DGS steel jacketed solid penetrated through 73 and 70 sheets, which is pretty interesting. I was expecting the DGS to penetrate more than the monometal, and I don't know if it was just my shot angle, the way I was oriented towards the sheetrock, that maybe had something to do with the shallower penetration with the DGS, because the DGS usually penetrates the deepest. And I have done a 2x10 test with the DGS, and the DGS penetrated through 26 2x10s, while the 350 grain monometal penetrated only through 24 or 25 sheets. So the DGS always out-penetrates the 350 grain monometal slightly, and the DGS also out-penetrated the 350 grain monometal in the plywood test that I did. And in the plywood test, the DGS penetrated through 75 sheets of half-inch plywood. So pretty interesting. And I'm going to go through all these sheets with you guys one by one so you can see exactly what happened and the damage done to the sheetrock. Next was the Buffalo Bore TSX, 400 grain TSX. And that one has a muzzle velocity of 2,425 feet per second out of my 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. And I have chronographed that load. Also 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And so the TSX penetrated through 65 sheets. That is just insane, guys. The TSX is an expanding bullet, and it penetrated through 65 sheets. That is just insane. That is double what the 44 Magnum and 10 millimeter could penetrate with hard casts. And then finally, the DGX Bonded, which is a steel jacketed soft point, and the steel jacket is bonded to the high antimony lead core. That one penetrated through 34 sheets. Okay, so penetrated the same amount as my 44 Magnum with 305 grain hard cast bare loads, and roughly the same as my 10 millimeter with 220 grain hard casts, which penetrated through around 32 sheets of sheetrock. So pretty interesting. I was expecting the DGX Bonded to penetrate through probably 50 sheets or so. I don't know why it only penetrated through 34. It's possible that, again, for some reason, maybe I was oriented not perfectly square to the sheetrock, and maybe that's why it didn't penetrate as much. But still, massive amount of penetration with the 416 Ruger, 111 sheets of sheetrock. That is just insane. So you definitely do not want to use your 416 Ruger elephant gun, or any elephant gun for that matter, for home defense, because likely you're going to be penetrating at least 100 sheets of sheetrock. So you might penetrate through your whole town before that bullet stops, okay? Again, I've penetrated through 75 sheets of half-inch plywood with the 400 grain DGS bullets, factory Hornady loading, and 26 2x10s. So you definitely do not want to use your elephant gun in a home defense scenario unless you have like a hill behind the target and the hill will absorb the bullet. But if it's just the flat terrain, you can expect that elephant gun to penetrate through your whole town before it stops, okay? So I'm going to just go through all of these sheets one by one, and then I'm going to recover the bullets. I'm going to clean them up. We're going to take a closer look at the bullets to see what happened to them. We're going to measure the expansion, the weight retention. We're also going to look at the wound channel inside of the sheetrock. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so I took 2 shots with the DGS. I took 2 shots with the 350 grain monometal. I took 1 shot up here with the DGX Bonded, and then I took 1 shot down here with the 400 grain TSX. So this is sheet number 1. Here's sheet number 2. Sheet number 3. Okay, all the holes look pretty much the same size. Sheet number 4. Sheet number 5, you can see that DGX Bonded starting to open up already. Okay, look at the hole here compared to the rest. Sheet number 6, you can see the DGX Bonded opening up. Sheet number 7, and now this hole is pretty massive, okay? That's a big hole. That's about 1 inch in diameter, maybe 1.25 inches, okay? Huge hole, okay? That's the DGX Bonded. Look at the size of that hole compared to the others. So it's opening up already. Here is sheet number 8, sheet number 9, sheet number 10, sheet number 11, sheet number 12. Look at that, guys. Look at the size of that hole. Only in the 12th sheet. That's pretty rapid expansion. Definitely didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to start expanding until maybe 20 or 30 sheets. But that's a huge hole, all right? Sheet number 13. Look at that hole, guys. Sheet number 14. Sheet number 15. Sheet number 16. Sheet number 17, guys. Look at the size of that hole. That is just absolutely insane. And don't mind my pink broom over here on the right. That's actually my fiance's broom. That's not mine. Look at that hole. Wow. Look at that, guys. 18th sheet. Just a huge hole. And the other bullets didn't even expand at all yet. The TSX down here on the bottom hasn't even started expanding yet. Okay. So that is just insane. Look at the difference between the DGX and the TSX. That's a huge difference. The TSX isn't even expanding yet. Here is sheet number 19. Here is sheet 20, sheet 21, sheet 22, sheet 23. You can see in sheet 23 the TSX is starting to open up, but look at the size of the hole from the DGX Bonded, okay? And the solids are not opening up at all, obviously. Here is sheet 24, sheet 25, sheet 26, sheet 27, sheet 28, sheet 29. You can see the DGX has already transferred most of its energy, and the hole is much smaller now, okay? So it transferred most of its energy in the first 10 to 20 sheets. So it created a huge wound channel in the beginning, and then the wound channel is getting smaller now, and the TSX is really starting to ramp up now in the 29th sheet. Here's the 30th sheet, 31st sheet, 32nd sheet, 33rd sheet, okay? And here we have our bullet, the DGX Bonded, all right? And it was actually backwards. Oh, it fell out. It was actually backwards, okay? But here's the bullet. This is what it looks like. Didn't really expand fully, okay? You can see it only partially expanded, but we're gonna take a closer look. I'm gonna clean this up, all right? But 34 sheets, guys. It penetrated through 34 sheets. Here's the 34th sheet, 35th sheet. You can see a dent here from the DGX Bonded, okay? TSX is starting to really open up there, okay? 36th, 37th, 38th sheet, 39th sheet, 40, 41, 42. You can see the TSX there, not really opening up much.
43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64,
65, and here we have our TSX, which somehow ended up all the way on the right side, and all these bullets traveled to the right. It must have been the way that I was shooting, the angle. Here's our TSX, okay? Let me just pull this out for you guys so you can take a look. All right, you can see it barely expanded, all right? But we're gonna clean this guy up and take a closer look and weigh it. 67, and you can see one of the DGS's exited out the bottom right, okay? 68, 69, 70, 71, okay? And this is actually where one of the DGS's exited out the bottom right corner, okay? Here's 71, 72, 73, and this is how the DGS was sideways when I found it, okay? It was kind of just like that, sitting like that. So pretty interesting. I wasn't expecting the DGS to penetrate so shallow. I mean, still 73 sheets is a lot, but normally it penetrates more than the mono metal. So I don't know if it's just because the drywall is so dry. It has a hard time stabilizing. I'm not sure. But we're going to clean this guy up. And there's that steel jacket. Okay, you can see that steel jacket is pretty thick. And there's the high antimony lead core. Okay, so pretty interesting. All right. Sheet 74. sheet 75. You can see a dent still from the DGS.
76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106.
Here we have our first monometal, 107, and it's actually stuck to the 108th sheet. Okay, you can see the nose poking out there, all right? But it was basically in a perfect nose forward position, all right? So that's one of the monometals. Here's the other one, 109, 110, and 111, okay? And it's holding these two sheets together. But that is just absolutely crazy, guys. 111 sheets. There's the nose. The nose looks pretty good. So I'm going to pull these bullets out. I'm going to clean them up. We're going to weigh them. We're going to take a closer look at them. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So here's our winner. The 350 grain monometal. This is the one that penetrated the deepest, 111 sheets of 1/2-inch drywall. 350 grains, solid copper alloy. Okay, you can see this bullet is still intact. You can see just some rifling marks on the bearing surface. The nose got a little bit deformed, barely noticeable. You can see some slight deformation there around the nose, but pretty much no deformation whatsoever. Now, this bullet looks pretty small in my hands because I have big hands, but I want to just show you guys how big this 350 grain monometal really is. Here I have an Underwood Ammo 220 grain hard cast 10 millimeter auto. All right, there you can see 10 millimeter auto. Okay, and I want to show you how small this 10 millimeter bear load looks compared to the 416 Ruger Elephant Gun 350 grain monometal. I mean, this is just the bullet itself, okay? The bullet itself is bigger than the entire 10 millimeter bear load cartridge, the whole thing, okay? That is just absolutely insane, all right? And there's the bases here compared, all right? Interestingly, they're both 40 caliber, all right? But look at that, guys. That is just crazy, okay? Look at how it just dwarfs that 10 millimeter. And then on the left, I added a 44 Magnum 265 grain monometal. And even the 44 Magnum looks kind of small compared to the 416 Ruger 350 grain monometal. That is just insane, guys. All right, so now let's look at some of the other bullets. Here's our second place winner. This is the other 350 grain monometal. This one penetrated 108 sheets. Okay, you can see still 100% intact. Here's our 400 grain Dangerous Game solid steel jacketed bullet. Okay, you can see it's still 100% intact. The nose looks good. Everything looks good. All right. Here we have our 400 grain TSX Triple Shock X. You can see not much expansion on this TSX, but that's to be expected because we're shooting a dry substance. Okay, so that's normal, but normally these TSX bullets expand very nicely. Check that out, guys. Just a massive bullet. Okay, look at the size of that bullet. 400 grains. Absolutely insane. And then here we have our 400 grain DGX Bonded, Dangerous Game Expanding Bonded. This has a steel jacket. Okay, the base looks good. And you can see it kind of expanded, about a half mushroom. Again, we're shooting a dry substance, so you're not going to get a lot of expansion. But this has a high antimony lead core, so this lead is pretty tough stuff. You know, it's basically like a hard cast bullet. So the core of this bullet is made of a hard cast lead, and then it has a steel jacket. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see the steel because they have copper plating over it, but this jacket is made of steel. Okay, so this is an excellent bullet for dangerous game. That's what it's designed for dangerous game, big game. This would be a great brown bear bullet, okay, for North America, bison, moose, elk, you know, within the range limitations of this cartridge inside of, let's say, 200 yards, because after 200 yards, the drop-off is going to be pretty substantial with a heavy flat-nose bullet, even with a pretty high muzzle velocity. So inside of 200 yards, you could easily drop a brown bear with this bullet, no problem. And I have tested this bullet against 2x10s, and it can penetrate 8 2x10s, which is the same amount of penetration as a 308 full metal jacket and a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum 440 grain hard cast bear load. So that's really deep penetration for an expanding bullet, and as you can see, it held together nicely. So what we're going to do now is we're going to weigh these bullets and see what kind of weight retention we got with them. So stay tuned. Just want to show you guys how massive these bullets are. Again, here we have the 400 grain bullets. We have the 400 grain DGS here on the left, and then we have the 400 grain TSX, and we have our 44 Magnum and 10 millimeter bear loads here. And you can see this 400 grain TSX is basically almost as big as the 44 Magnum, and it dwarfs the 10 millimeter. That is just absolutely crazy, guys. This is called serious bear medicine, serious dangerous game medicine. This is the type of cartridge you want to use against dangerous game, brown bear, and African Big 5. So let's weigh these guys and see what kind of weight retention we got. All right, guys, I got my reloading scale and I've calibrated it just to check. I got my 100 gram weight here, and as you can see, it says 100 grams. So we're good to go. I'm just going to switch to grains now. We're going to start with the winner of the test, the 350 grain mono metal. This is the one that penetrated the deepest. 348.8 grains. So basically 100% weight retention, only lost 1 grain. That's really impressive. Moving on to the other 350 grain mono metal, 349.1 grains. So again, only lost 1 grain. Here we have our dangerous game solid, steel jacketed flat nose, 400 grains, and looks like it lost almost 2 grains. So also about 100% weight retention. Here we have our 400 grain Triple Shock X. And this one actually only lost 0.3 grains. So pretty good weight retention there. 100% weight retention. And then finally, our 400 grain Dangerous Game Expanding Bonded bullet. Let's see what kind of weight retention this one has. 359 grains. Wow, so it lost 40 grains. That's very interesting. That's a lot of weight loss. So pretty interesting, guys. But again, this is designed for maximum expansion. It's a soft nose lead bullet, okay? So Pretty interesting. So now I'm just going to measure the expansion on the expanding bullets. Let's see what kind of expansion we got. All right, guys, so we're going to start with the 400 grain Dangerous Game expanding bonded. Let's see what kind of expansion we got. Wow, still a lot of expansion. Almost 60 caliber, 0.6 almost inches of expansion inside of drywall. That's a lot of expansion. So between 0.5 and 0.6 inches, looks like at the widest it expanded 0.63 inches. So that's a lot of expansion for only half of the nose expanding. Okay, so pretty interesting. Now let's see what kind of expansion we got with the TSX. Got about half an inch, 0.52 inches of expansion. Okay, pretty interesting. 0.54. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what other kind of tests you want me to do with the 416 Ruger. So thanks for watching. Check out my 416 Ruger playlist for all of my 416 Ruger content. And also check out my drywall penetration tests playlist for all of my drywall penetration tests. Check out my penetration tests and ballistics tests playlist for all of my ballistic tests and penetration tests. And as always, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.